Alright, so today we're going to do checking the oil level on a Mini, checking the coolant, which is the most problems that the Mini has. There's no light for the coolant, there's no light for the oil level. Nobody ever checks the oil. We always have problems, and it's a pain in the butt to check the oil. So we're going to show you the best way that I've found to do it. You can do it any other way, but this is the way we do it here. So basically, just get in here. The best time to really check it is first thing in the morning. Everything's dripped down, but normally you would want to pull the dipstick out, wipe it a couple of times so it's completely dry, put it in, wait a couple of seconds, pull it out, and what we do is we hold the dipstick sideways. Then you want to start from the dry end of the dipstick with your finger and just see where the oil is going to start to come up. So there's the oil, and you can see with your eye on this particular one we're about 2/3 of the way up. So, and obviously the oil is here. Okay, so the oil level is good. Between this point and this point is 1 quart of oil. So that's the easiest way to check it. While you're doing that, all you have to do is look over here, and then the coolant bottle at the bottom between these two pieces, between the upper and lower half, as long as there's coolant in the bottom and you can see it, you're good to go. That's it. It takes less than however long it took, 2 minutes, and you need to do that realistically every week. If you don't want to do that, then you can do it at least once a month, and then you can add oil as needed. Typically most cars will use 1 quart of oil every 5,000 miles. Some cars will use more. Just buy the oil. We use the Mini oil. The biggest issue that you're worried about is just to make sure you have these ratings on there. Okay, and it really doesn't matter what brand. We just happen to buy the Mini because it's convenient for us, because we buy a lot of the parts from the dealer and the price is the same. So basically this is the oil that we use here. So ultimately you want to keep the oil filled with this car. This car holds 4.5 liters. Okay, 90% of the people that are driving around have either 2 or 1 quart of oil in there. So you're basically running on half the oil. So if you were to take any BMW, which normally holds basically 7 liters, or figure 8 quarts, and you drain half the oil out and go drive it around for 50,000 miles, you're going to have a hell of a problem. And that's what the Minis have been doing, is people have been driving around with only half the amount of oil in it for all these years, and then all of a sudden these engines are failing, or there's issues, and it becomes a problem. So there's no engine, there's no problem with the Mini. There's no engine that can run. If you have a 10-quart oil sump and you put 5 quarts in it and go drive your car, you're going to damage the engine. So if you have a Mini with 5 quarts, and you drive with 2 quarts in it, or 2.5 or 1, you're going to damage the engine. Yeah, not that day, but it is not good. And this is what people do. And so when you buy a Mini, you want to make sure that if you're buying a used one, it has service records and it has regular oil interval changes. Typically every 5 to 7,500 miles, and somebody that's been taking care of it. But in general, if you have a Mini with no service records, then you're probably getting a Mini that has run low on oil numerous times, and then it's going to be a problem. So, buying a used Mini, it's really kind of iffy, because unless they have oil service records, and when the car originally came out, the oil changes were 15,000 miles. So by the time the car was on its 15,000 mile, 15,500, 17,000 mile, it would be very possible just to have 1.5, 2 quarts of oil in the car, because the car is using 1 quart every 5,000 in general, some more, some less. And the problem with the dealer is that when you went in for an oil change, they would come in and say, yeah, everything's good, everything's free, have a nice day, instead of, saying, hey, look, you're driving around with no oil in it, you're going to damage the engine, which is what we tell you here. And people go like, what? I didn't know that. Nobody's ever told me that. Well, you need to check the oil level on this car all the time and keep it topped up. You can use any other kind of oil. It's fine in a pinch. You're in the middle of Texas. I got no oil. What do I put in there? Put whatever you want in there. It's fine. But when you get back, then change it. You should run the oil, run the engine with these specs on there. Okay? And then you're good to go. or you can, like I said, buy whatever you want. But ultimately, this is what it's made for. And if you do that, those little steps, it's not going to have any issue. And keep an eye on the coolant level. And between those two, you'll be way ahead of the game. All right.